Okay, so now we're going into that section of the Vedanta that describes the Lord as being Anandamaya Vyasat, Anandamoy. Again and again, Scripture describes the Lord to be Anandamoy. So why is that given? So if we look in the Yajurveda, one of the main sections of the Yajurveda is the Taittiriya Upanisad or the Taittiriya Aranyaka. There's 27 main branches. So there's a very interesting story about how it appeared, and we'll discuss that. Because we discussed a little bit about Jaimini, who is one of the prominent disciples of Vyasadeva and who manifested the Samaveda, or who is overseeing the Samaveda. So we'll discuss, in the Yajurveda, there is the Taittiriya Upanishad, and in that Taittiriya Upanishad, there's discussion of the Panchakosh, which is the Annamaya Brahma, Pranamaya Brahma, Manomaya Brahma, Vijnanamaya Brahma, and Anandamaya Brahma. Means that transcendental entity manifests through foodstuffs, through the life airs, through the mind or the mental capacity, through the intellect, the reason or the wisdom capacity, and through the Anandamaya, the bliss, or what you can say the heart essence, love or bliss. So we'll go right into the story. So Vyasadeva, one of his four prominent disciples, Paila, who oversaw the Rig Veda, Vaishampayan, the Yajurveda, Jaimini, the Samaveda, and Sumanta, the Atharva Veda. So we're going to discuss Yajurveda. Vaishampayan had many qualified disciples. Of them, the most qualified was Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya was the most studious, the most intellectual, the most wise. And so there's a very interesting history given in the Vishnu Puran and also in other places. But I'm going to describe it according to the Vishnu Puran. So it's described that Yajnavalkya, with his other friends, the other munis, and also his disciples, they had a pact that when they would have their meetings, their Ishtagoshtis, they would all arrive at the proper time. Otherwise, munis would be disturbed. You know, every day you have your daily sadhana. You have to follow according to the daily times of the sadhana. Some people will be coming late. You know, Prabhuji also gets disturbed. We come late, and he's saying, oh, this is neglect. This is one kind of aparad. You're showing neglect, anadar, then it's like causing some distance in the heart. So they all had an agreement. They would come at the right time, and they would meet at the top of Mount Meru. Quite amazing, right? So the agreement was that if someone does not come on time, then they will incur the sin of killing a Brahmin, Brahma Hatya. So we can imagine if everyone was told, okay, if you don't come to class on time, you get the sin of killing a Brahmin. Then I think everyone would definitely come on time. You know, whoever's last to class, they get Brahma Hatya sin. So they made this agreement, and everyone was coming. But one time, Vaishampayan, he thought, I am the guru anyhow, and I have some very important function I have to attend. And he thought, I will come a little bit late. So because he was late, he incurred Brahma Hatya sin. But then that had to manifest somehow in reality. Like, you know, from the subtle comes the gross. So he thought, okay, I've committed Brahma Hatya, but my disciples will help to mitigate that. Because I'm helping them, their guru, they'll help mitigate it. But what happened is that as he was then going, his sister had a young child, a young son. And it's described in the Vishnu Puran, as he was going, he kicked this child by accident and killed it. And this boy was a Brahmin boy. So he killed the Brahmin boy, his sister. You can imagine how distraught and upset he was, and she was, obviously. So then when he went to that meeting place, he just told his disciples, you have to help me remove the sin of Brahma Hatya. So he said, all together remove the sin. So Yajnavalkya, his kind of most prominent disciple, he immediately stood up and said, I don't need all their help, I can do it alone. He said all these, like, basically neglectfully, all these other boys are kind of useless. I'll do it alone, Guruji. So Gurudev was actually upset at his impudence. That, oh, you are so proud. You think it's such a slight, trivial thing. And he said, now I'm dissatisfied with you. You should give me back everything I've taught you. So it's described that Yajnavalkya said, I don't need it anyway. What is this useless knowledge? Like, basically he was disturbed, thinking like Gurudev is now, by such a slight thing, he is rejecting me. So he said, okay, take it back. And as if a show of like his own, like it's not so valuable anyway, it's described that he vomited it up. He just projectile vomited everything he had learned from Vaishampayan. And it all appeared in a huge, you know, pool, and it was a very sham, blackish color. And saying thus, and vomiting thus, he departed. So then Vaishampayan, he was thinking, okay, he was my best disciple. Who's going to carry on my tradition? So the other disciples, they thought, let us take up all this knowledge that Yajnavalkya is regurgitated. Because they weren't so wise and so quickly able to, absorb this information. They thought if we absorb the vomit, all the teachings in that form of the vomit, maybe we'll understand everything. This is the Vishnu Puran speaking like this. So all those disciples took the form of Taittiriya. Taittiriya is a kind of bird called like a partridge is described. So they all took this form of Taittiriya and began to gobble up everything that Yajnavalkya had vomited out. And in this way, they became very wise, and they're called like there's a name for them, but they all began to, at that point, disseminate the Yajurveda, which is described to be the Krishna Yajurveda. So Yajurveda has two branches, the Krishna and the Sukla. Krishna means the darkish, because that vomit was darkish complexioned. And the Sukla, then there's another story. How did the Sukla Yajurveda manifest? So Sukla Yajurveda is described to be the golden or whitish. So then Yajnavalkya's story continues. So Yajnavalkya left Vaishampayan, and he thought, now I will no longer accept a mortal guru. I want to accept someone who is beyond this world. He's like, I don't want to get caught up in this stupid kind of stuff. So he went and he began to appreciate Suryadev. He began to meditate and pray to Lord Surya, glorifying him with many different stutis and prayers. After a long time of glorifying Surya, Surya became pleased with him and appeared before him and gave him the Sukla Veda, Yajurveda. However, Surya appeared in a very interesting form. He appeared as an effulgent, glowing horse, Ashva. And did he have a unicorn horn? He appeared as a very beautiful horse. And so, when you make the movie for this, you have to meditate and understand, did that horse sit on a Vyasasan and speak to him? Was he standing? Did Yajnavalkya stand and hear it? We have to understand. How did the sound come forth from Suryadev in the form of his horse? Very interesting thing to meditate on. So at that time, he gave him this Sukla Yajurveda. So this is some of the interesting history. Later on, Yajnavalkya and Vaishampayan met again. I think it was with Janak Rishi or one of the other rishis. And they had a discussion. And at the beginning, there was some conflict between them. But afterwards, Vaishampayan was very pleased. And he wanted that his disciples would also get the Sukla Yajurveda. So what is the Yajurveda? Yajurveda is a sequence of verses that is chanted by a priest during a yajna. So like when you have a yajna, one person is offering the oblations, and they may be chanting or otherwise another Ritvik will be chanting these mantras. So these are the Yajur Vedas. And within that, there's many different sections. One of those sections is the Taittiriya Upanishad. So now that we know the origin of the Taittiriya Upanishad, from all those little birds eating it up, manifesting it, then we can discuss the 5 koshas.